Welcome back to Talking in Spirals. Today is our last episode of season 2.
Welcome back. Everything is on fire.
Everything is fine.
Oh, man. Good morning, y'all.
I'm going to assume you know who we are. I'm not going to bother with an introduction.
Yeah, if you're here, we are recording this episode Friday, November 8th, and it will be out in 1 week. So, yeah, this is our season finale. We decided to record this today, our season finale, so that we could, reflect on the election. And we are both regretting that decision today as the actual recording date is here.
Why did we do this?
Yeah, wouldn't it have been nice if we had recorded this episode prior to the election and it could have just been like a fun, naive, we don't know what's coming for us kind of thing?
I do think that was the original plan, but then I think we had something where we needed to shift our schedule up 2 weeks. So then our last episode ended up post-election. We're doing great. We're fine, everybody.
Well, we also wanted to. We
Yeah.
wanted to like record it more in real time, I mean, I know it's a week out, but
Yeah. I'm regretting that choice a bit now.
yeah, cuz we didn't want to record this today. Let's just be honest. Like neither one of us wanted to do this today. So, yeah, elephant in the room. We lost. It's not funny, but that's how I cope.
The only thing we can do right now.
Yeah. So, if you are unaware, this podcast is about sustainability and environmentalism, minimalism, mind, body, planet. That's our friend Chris's podcast, but similar theme. And we really, really had high hopes, perhaps too high of hopes, for a presidential candidate being elected who believes in climate change. Again, the bar is on the floor. That did not happen. So, why are we here?
I don't think I realized how unwell I am to record this episode right now. I mean, we've had now 2.5 days to sit with this information. And I think the only way that I can really describe it right now is that I'm grieving the country that we could have had. I'm grieving the climate action that could have been done over the next 4 years.
Yeah.
But I, along with many other climate environmentalists, am anticipating a large rollback on a lot of environmental protections, not to mention not even bringing up the human rights that are going to also roll back.
Yeah.
But to keep it more climate focused, I am grieving what could have been.
Yeah, which is just like a livable planet. And I don't this episode, I don't want to be doom and gloom, but I also don't want to be toxic positive and toxic positivity and just kind of like focus like, no, it's fine. Everything's fine. Like it's actually not. Your feelings are valid. It's not. It's not fine. It's not good. But like at the same time, the work continues. We're not going anywhere. I would argue that the work is more needed now than ever. So,
but I also think it's important to sit with this as long as you need to then bounce back better. So I give myself a couple days to just kind of exist with this information. And next week, I'm going to go back to normal as I can be, and start my action plans and come back stronger than ever. But take the time that you need to exist and grieve if you need to.
Yeah, it's a delicate balance to find, right? It's hard to determine where that line is of like, okay, we're just being like doom and gloom and we're not being productive in this feeling and this sitting here being miserable kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to encourage people, oh, you have to be productive, like use that energy for something good. It's like it's okay, but it's also there's a level to which it becomes inappropriate. Like I don't want to just sit around and literally be miserable forever.
And we're going to have 4 years to be the best that we can be, and
that's so long.
We're going to have 4 years to do all of the actions. So if you need to sit with it for another week, then just do that. We will have plenty of time.
Yeah, we got time. We're doing hard time. Listen, I think it's important to like embody how this feels and I don't know about you, but my group chats with all my girls were just, it's just been like days and days of everybody being like I'm not well. So, if this feels that way, it's because it is that way. So,
Yeah.
but it's not all doom and gloom. We want to come in with some positivity. We want to discuss some positive action steps that you can take right now. And we're going to get into that. So, in light of recent events, in case you're unaware, Donald Trump is president for another 4 years. And, that's really heavy for most people that listen to this podcast. And for us, it's a very intense blow to the movement and what we do, and just like being women in general and being progressive people who don't stand for hate. So, basically, we wanted to come and speak to some positive things rather than sticking to our normal format for this episode. We both normally talk about our hyperfixations at the moment at the top of every episode. And this time around, that didn't feel appropriate because I don't have any hyperfixations except for like just like surviving and kind of like feeling this weird grief and guilt in my stomach all the time. So rather than give you our hyperfixations, which are honestly essentially just doom scrolling and reading about Project 2025, we figured we would hit you with some positive climate news because despite the tone of this episode and the world right now, there actually is positive climate news to share. And it's important that we highlight that. So, Maria, why don't you share some positive climate news from this week?
The most recent thing that has happened, and this is post election, is that the Biden Harris administration has taken steps to protect the Arctic lands and wildlife in Alaska. The Department of Interior canceled oil and gas leases in the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge and proposed some new protections in Alaska, which is huge. This just kind of builds on the work that the Biden Harris administration has done over the last 4 years, climate wise, and builds on the already protected 21 million acres of lands and waters across the nation, which is huge. And I have a feeling as we move forward in these last 60 or 70 days of this administration, that they're going to do everything that they can to start to put some of those protections in place just in case, because you never know what's going to happen. That's about it.
Yeah. So, yeah, like we've said 5,000 times.
So there's a sliver of hope for you.
Like we've said 5,000 times, there are very negative things happening that are very scary and very heartbreaking and very heavy. But there's also still positive things happening. There's always going to be positive things happening, even when it feels like that's absolutely not possible. There's always things to look forward to, even when they seem like they're outweighed. So, yeah, that was something that we read and we were both like, okay, cool.
And I mean, it's going to provide critical habitat for caribou and polar bears and other animals. So like it's pretty positive. It's a good thing.
Hell yeah. Right. Let us hope that the next few months of this administration are used to do some good work because, yeah, yes, that's all I'm going to say. Let us hope for that. Trigger warning, doomism.
Oh yeah, we probably should have done a trigger warning like right in the beginning.
Trigger warning, we're talking about the 2024 presidential election. So, and the feelings that accompany that from an environmentalist, feminist perspective. Do with that information what you will. So now that we've kind of touched on some positivity, let's get back to the negative stuff, huh? How's that sound? Not even just negativity, but like, yeah, not even like negativity, but just like reality. Like, let's just keep it real. It's been insanely heavy and really, really, really tough, weird. It feels like time isn't real kind of thing for the past few days. And yeah, I haven't been able to like really watch anything or read anything in detail yet, which is crazy because it's been a couple of days and I'm like very much an information person. But essentially, it all kind of went downhill for me on election day because, as you guys know, I live just a couple miles from Trump. And I was already pretty mentally unwell at the time, but I didn't want to look at screens. And I woke up on Tuesday morning and I had no power. At like 11 a.m., we lost power. Um, I guess the wind knocked down a tree, so we didn't have any electric. And I was like, this is a great sign from the universe for me to just not today. Just choose to not. Like, I can't work, obviously. I couldn't even really like cook or anything. And it was super windy and cloudy. So it was pretty dark inside. So I was like, let me book a yoga class. Let me like just be outside today. And so I went to yoga, came home, still no power. I was like, all right, I guess I'll go just bike around aimlessly for several hours because I just didn't know what else to do. And this is where it gets weird. I was like biking near downtown West Palm Beach. I was biking for hours, and I ended up right by the convention center where the Trump campaign was having their event, their election day event. And I ended up in like a hodgepodge of really, really fringe supporters with really, pretty disturbing like signs and really racist stuff on their shirts, and just it was really intense and really just really heavy, and I was like in the middle of it. It was one of those things where I like turned a corner on my bike and I was in it, you know? And yes, I should have known that that was happening that day, but I was honestly just like mindlessly biking for hours and hours. So I ended up in it, and it got scary and weird. There were like people screaming and had like weapons on their back, and it was just really intense, and I just kind of started to feel like a panicky feeling and bike out of there really quick. And I came home and still no power. So it just seemed like a good idea to just shut down for the day. And I knew it. I don't know if you feel that feeling, but I knew. I knew it was going to happen. Like after that day, I had some hope and then I had none. I don't know if you can relate to that. And I don't want to be upsetting or make anyone feel like we shouldn't have hope, because the turn of events was disturbing, but like I lost my hope and I went to bed, and that morning I just stared at the ceiling when I woke up, and I didn't want to pick up my phone because I knew what I was going to see. And yeah, that's exactly what happened. So, in the time since then, it's just felt this I can only describe it as grief, as Maria did, just this weird like, how is this happening kind of thing. And in Florida, we pretty much lost everything too. Like 57% of voters voted for Amendment 4, which was to
You only needed 3 more percent.
right, which a lot of people didn't realize that you need 60% to pass, which is so wild. Like to get 57 and lose. That's heavy. That's heavy. We also had recreational marijuana on the ballot. Same stuff, same thing, failed. But yeah, so it was just like that moment of like, why do we do this? Like, why are we even doing this? And for the record, I think that feeling is temporary because we always bounce back. We've been here before. I don't, obviously not to this extent, but like we have been here before. In our lifetime, we have seen some heavy losses, right? But the truth is that this one hit me like a ton of bricks, and I think everyone feels that way. I wrote a newsletter that went out this morning, kind of summed it up. I said, environmentalists are accustomed to rejection, bad news, and crippling blows. We're not strangers to an uphill battle, and for those of us in red states, it's all we know. For that reason, I thought I was prepared for this possible outcome, but this one hit me harder than I expected. This one hurts. I wish I could say I'm fired up, ready to go, and more motivated than ever. Today, that isn't the case. I have a feeling it won't be the case for a long time to come. I'm trying to be okay with that. The truth is, this fight continues regardless of a lack of morale. It always has, and it always will. We can and should take the time to process, to breathe through it, to allow ourselves to accept what is coming. But I know as well as you do that in the end, we must ultimately keep moving forward with climate action, humanitarian action, and the so called work. It will not be easy, it will not be fun, but it will continue. Even through my cynicism, which is layered on thick at the moment, I care about our future too much to give up. I believe in fighting for a livable and equitable future for the next generation to come. I have a feeling that you do too. So, yeah, writing is kind of my format for getting my feelings out and processing things, and I think that helped me to write that. So, yeah, that's where I'm at. I think I think I'll take some time, and then I'm back. I'm back, baby. And I don't know if you can say the same, but we don't really have a choice.
Yeah. Honestly, I am upset with myself for letting myself be almost too hopeful because I went into Tuesday, election day, and same with my husband. We were very excited about the fact that we went and we voted for the first female president. We were like, we made history today.
First female president of color. You voted for Hillary, right?
Well, yeah.
It's crazy how I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I said the same thing. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I just voted for a woman president for the first time." And I was like, "Holy shit, I voted for Hillary." Like, this isn't the first time.
Yeah.
This is the second time I voted for a female president and we lost to Trump.
The difference is in 2016, I was not as hopeful because I knew that people were very against Hillary. They did not like her
Right.
when they really thought that she was a criminal. But I thought in my mind, how could anybody be against Kamala Harris, a former prosecutor, the arguably the only qualified candidate? I truly went in thinking there's no way that she's going to lose. So for me, that was the difference between voting for Hillary and now voting for Kamala Harris. I let myself be so hopeful. I stayed offline Tuesday night and I did a really good job of staying offline. And then I thought it was 10:30. I had just finished scrolling on TikTok. I was like, you know what? I'm going to check the New York Times map and I'm going to just see how it is so I can sleep a little bit better tonight. And then by that point, 11 o'clock, I had been glued to the map because all of the states were starting to come red and turn red. And I kept telling myself, I'm waiting for the blue shift. I'm waiting for it to come blue. I'm waiting for some of those swing states to lean blue. And the New York Times has the meter on their app that shares the percentage of the likelihood of the candidate becoming president. And I watched it go from 50% all the way up to 90%. And I
Just like a heart sinking feeling.
gut wrenching. My husband was asleep, snoring next to me. And it was at 1 o'clock when I put my phone down and I was like, all right, I cannot look at this anymore. At that point, it was like 89%
You knew.
that Trump was
Yeah.
going to be president. I was like, I have to at least try to sleep. So I put my phone away, went to sleep for 2 hours and 5 minutes, according to my Aura ring.
Oh, fuck.
Our dog barked at 3 a.m. and she barked at just something outside. So we both woke up and I sat there thinking, do I tell my husband? Do I let him sit there and go back to sleep? And at that point, I couldn't sit with that information by myself. So I pulled up my phone and we looked at the results and then did not go back to sleep. So for the first time ever, I pride myself in having a sleep score every night above 85. For the first time, my Aura ring told me my sleep score was 47. I slept for 2 hours and 6 minutes. And I don't know about you and your Aura ring, but I've gotten notifications since Tuesday that I'm stressed out.
So funny. We always bring it back to the Aura ring. I actually I was making jokes about this because I that's how I operate. I have to. My Aura ring for the past couple days has kept giving me notifications. You've experienced 4 times as much stress as normal today.
Yep.
What could be
Yep.
contributing to that? And I was joking with my friends. I was like, I searched Aura for the tag that said rampant fascism, and they didn't have one. It's so weird. Like, what do you mean? What could have contributed to this?
Did you see too the Aura ring put out a post on Instagram about the data that had showed from Aura ring users that a lot of us had higher daytime stress, a higher heart rate, and it took longer for everybody to fall asleep on November 5th.
No,
So there
I didn't
was
see
more
that.
daytime stress, less restorative time, and a higher heart rate across all of the members in
Right.
Aura. So everybody was collectively stressed.
Yeah, even the Trumpers.
Yeah. I will always remember this election as it being 3 in the morning
Oh, yeah.
and laying in bed with my husband and talking about what the next 4 years are gonna look like, how our life plans are gonna have to shift, how all these things and all these big dreams that we had and hoped for and plans that we are gonna do next year
Yeah.
are gonna be put on hold, and just everything that's gonna change. And
Yeah.
I will never forget that feeling and just how gut-wrenching it was.
It's the worst. It's the worst feeling. It's like, holy shit. It's the worst feeling.
And I hate to say it, but I am still holding on to the absolutely tiniest sliver of hope that until all of the votes are counted and until the elections is certified. And I know I've looked at the map, I've looked at the electoral votes.
There's no way.
Unless several swing
Yeah.
states were wrong, there's no way. But I am probably hurting myself mentally, but allowing myself to hold on to the tiniest sliver
Right.
of hope that something could change. But logically, looking at the map, I know it's
Yeah.
not going to.
Yeah, it's not going to. I'm sorry. But that doesn't mean that there's not other things we can do. And you know what? Like, if your activism starts and stops at a presidential election, you're not an activist. So there are hundreds, if not thousands, of things that we can be doing
Mhm.
to advocate for a livable planet and human rights on a daily basis in our local communities, working with nonprofits, organizations, and mutual aid. There's so much that can be done, and now is the time more than ever. If you were even on the fence about joining, I urge you to use this grief and disappointment and outrage to motivate you to work harder rather than to give up. I know that's easier said than done. I'm literally trying to convince myself to not give up. Um and I don't know. It's tough in the climate movement if you speak negatively about the movement or about the state of things. You often get labeled as like a climate doomist, which is essentially probably the worst thing you could be labeled as a climate activist. Like it really is like very very much an insult and something people do not want to be accused of doing is promoting climate doom. Rightly so, I understand. There's enough of it. But it's also fair to express where you're at and to share that like if you feel this way, you're not crazy. Everybody feels this way right now. A lot of us do. If you're a part of the movement, this is a devastating blow. Like we get up and we keep going, but this one sucks. Like this one is heavy as hell and that's just the reality.
It's gonna take us a little extra time to get back up and moving.
Yeah, this is the end of season 2, so I think that honestly works out because we're going to need
We need some time.
a little bit of time to just kind of see where we want to go with this, but I don't know about you. I have a lot of guilt almost about like I should have done more, that which is like counterproductive, to have guilt about it. But
Yeah.
that's how I feel. And I think moving forward, I'm hoping that this will give me more of a sense of purpose to get even more involved with local organizations and movements in my own community and at large. So yeah, I called my dad first. My dad is a lifelong environmentalist. He was the first person I called when I saw the results at 8 in the morning on Wednesday. He was the first person I called, and he just said, and my dad is a cynic, like huge cynic. If you think I'm a cynic, you should meet him. And he said, will stick with me. He's like, there's more of them than there are of us. So we have to work harder. And I don't know if that's logistically true. Like, I'm sure there's a lot more environmentalists that were swayed into voting a way that maybe went against their own interests in this election. I genuinely kind of believe that. And there's a whole lot of rhetoric to be discussed with the RFK thing. And that really threw me for a loop and kind of changed the game of this election. And I'm still processing that. I think a lot of people are. Obviously, people who are much more qualified than us to speak to presidential elections are going to be processing that data, and I'm sure we will see more and more statistics come out about how RFK swayed a lot of voters. to vote against their own interests if they're environmentalists and self-proclaimed health people. But you know what? At this point in time, there are more of them than there are of us.
Yeah.
He won the popular vote. And I don't believe that there are 71, 72 million climate deniers in this country.
You'd be surprised.
Yeah, you're right. There are climate deniers, but do you think that more than half of the US population is a climate denier straight up? I feel a lot of them believe in it, but they
I think there could be levels of climate deniability.
levels, that's what I'm saying. So it's like
Yeah.
so we need to educate. Like we need to get the message out.
You bringing up education is also very important because I don't know if you've seen any of the polling stats, is that maybe like 3 or 4 weeks ago, Trump said during a rally that he loves uneducated people. And one of the polling stats came up is that if you had less than a bachelor's degree, so an associate's degree, some college, no college, you were more likely, like 70% more likely voting for Donald Trump. If you had a bachelor's degree, a finished bachelor's degree, a master's or a doctorate, that you were more likely voting for Kamala Harris. So I think there needs to be a bit more education. And I think that media had a big part to play. I do think it's important to also mention that New York did have abortion rights on the ballot. And there was I never thought living in New York that it would be a question about whether or not my rights as a human would being gone. But New York did pass Proposition 1, stating that no person will be denied equal protection of the law, no matter their race, color, ethnicity, disability, religion, sex, sexual orientation, pregnancy. So New York put a measure in place to kind of protect its residents, and we will see if it will hold true over the next 4 years. But I do think that there's a bit of positivity.
I'm glad you had some positive news. Yeah, I'm glad that New York had something.
I am glad that there was a little bit.
We got nothing.
I mean, I'm not surprised because we have New York
Yeah,
City, so we have a lot of
yeah,
liberal. When you look at the actual map of New York, which is the way it is around the entire country, the cities are liberal
yeah,
and everywhere else is not. So,
yeah, which is why conservatives hate cities.
yeah. So I was really glad that Prop 1 passed. So there's at least another layer of protection.
I'm very happy to hear that. Yeah, that's amazing to
So there's
hear.
a little bit of
Um,
positivity.
we got nothing in Florida, so we have a lot of beautiful things here to protect that we're just not doing it. So something needs to change. And you know what? The Democratic Party has abandoned the working class. And I think it's done a poor job of actually organizing young people. Yeah, I think it's time for a progressive future. And that means changing the way the party runs from the inside out. I will be coming back with more once I have fully formed thoughts on that. But our strategy didn't work. It didn't work. We have to acknowledge that. It didn't work.
Yeah. I also do think we have to acknowledge that most presidential campaigns have 2 years and she had 3 months.
Yeah,
So,
literally.
I do think it is incredible the work that she was able to do and
100%.
accomplish
Right.
over
Yeah.
the 3
And
months.
it's the fault of the Democratic Party for not establishing sooner.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, no, it is a shit show. So
I am just still shocked that there were 70 million people that willingly cast the vote for a predator, a
felon,
a felon, a literal felon, a sexist, ableist,
yeah,
I don't know.
and they're halting the charges for now, and they'll after his presidential term is over, they'll continue.
So I do want to transition into a little bit of hope and share something in her concession speech that really resonated with me. I watched the video clip several times and cried several times over it. And it's what she says at the end, that only when it is dark enough can you see the stars. And a lot of people feel like we're entering a dark time, and she hopes that it's not the case. But if it is, let us fill the sky with the light of a brilliant billion of stars, the light of optimism, of faith, of truth, and service. And may that work guide us, even in the face of setbacks, toward the extraordinary promise of the United States. I listened to that soundbite and watched that video clip probably 100 times yesterday and the day before and cried every time. So I'm holding on to that little sliver of hope while I am mentally recovering and trying to figure out how to move forward and how I, as an environmentalist, want to move forward. And I don't have the answers to that right now. Ask me again at season 3.
Yeah. Season 3, baby, better than ever.
And hopefully mentally well.
Let's give it a shot. It's worth a shot.
Is now an appropriate time to joke about the government taking away our microphones because we're women?
Honestly, someone should. We're not qualified.
That's okay.
I'm leaning into this women shouldn't have rights thing. I'm like, please, lobotomize me.
Me too. It's like how I've been coping over the last few days, though. Like,
I know some people don't like it.
I don't remember what we were talking about, but I said to Quinn, well, when I no longer can have my name on the house, then,
Yeah.
like, here you go.
Holy shit. People are gonna hear this and think that we're being dramatic. I like don't care, you know? I don't care.
We're allowed to be a little dramatic this week.
This is my podcast. You know,
Yeah.
like I could say what I want. Like, I mean, it's our podcast. You know what I mean? Like I got pushback for speaking about my political values prior to this election. Like I had a ton of people messaging me saying
So much.
I wanted you to keep politics out of this page.
Yep.
This is, first of all, that makes me want to throw hands.
Yep. I've gotten hundreds of messages between Tuesday and Wednesday on Facebook and on Instagram telling me to leave politics out of my food recipes and that I'm a woman and that it's not my choice.
And do you know what? I think there's a very weird disconnect that happens because we post a lot of recipes and people follow for the recipes and they don't realize, like, first and foremost, we are environmentalists. Like, we started doing everything that we do online through environmentalist lens, and I gained my following because I'm a devoted environmentalist.
Yeah.
Yes, I also have other things in my life, like recipes, even though all of our recipes are designed around like food waste and stuff. I mean, it's just weird that people think that you can separate environmentalism and politics.
Yeah.
And that I should just be quiet to make other people comfortable. When in reality, we didn't even post anything. Neither one of us posted anything that should have been controversial in any sense.
Yep.
Saying that I'm voting progressively shouldn't offend you. And if it does, like, please unfollow. Seriously, I don't there's no room for apologetics for the Trump administration on my platform. There's not.
What got me was that when I shared on Wednesday my disappointment in the election, how many MAGA Trumpers I had in my DMs with very horrible comments back. The amount of respect, if things went differently and Harris won, I would not be in MAGA or Trump supporters' story replies or comments saying, like, haha, we won. Get wrecked. Like, that's not something that
Get wrecked.
we
You're
would
kidding
do.
me.
That's not something that we would do, but I've had
Not us as people.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's people on the left side of the progressive that would, but this girl I know posted something. And you know what? If you're hateful, you're unfollowed. I'm sorry. End of story. I unfollowed like 30 people. And I will continue to. Like, don't.
Me too.
It's my page and it's I'm going to do what I want. And people messaging me saying, oh, I'm going to unfollow you. I'm like, literally don't let the door hit you on the way out.
Me too. I sent a couple wave emojis.
It made me have an identity crisis where I was like, there's people that follow me that see my daily posts about my beliefs, my values, and still think that I would vote for a Trump administration. Like, I'm like, what am I doing wrong? You know?
I know.
I had somebody that I know, IRL, post, you left wingers need to just get over it. After Trump or after Biden won, you didn't see us complaining and making a scene. We moved on. And I literally,
hello?
Insurrection ?
January 6th ?
That I was like, oh, honey, I don't even know what to say to that. That's the most insane thing I've ever heard. He wouldn't concede.
He never did.
He didn't concede. He
still thinks he won that election and that it was stolen.
Kamala conceded. There is no comparison whatsoever. You want to come at me, both parties are bad? Yeah, 100%. Let's abolish the two-party system. I'm down. Two truths can exist at the same time. I can also vote for a progressive candidate who supports my right to my bodily autonomy and our ability to literally save a dying planet while also believing in a free Palestine. Like, we're not in an easy position. Oof, we went off the rails again.
So, the Mental Health Coalition shared a post earlier this week about 5 ways to practice self care and manage anxiety during uncertain times. And it was a really good post. I sent it to Brennan earlier this week as we were going back and forth about the results.
And I shared it in my newsletter.
So, the first slide on this post is that we are allowed to feel emotions. We can make room for all of them, the doom and gloom, but we also need to carve out space to practice hope and gratitude. And then the second way is to relax your body, try meditation, stretching, breath work, go for a walk outside. Brendan spent Tuesday and Wednesday biking around.
Literally just biking in circles aimlessly. And it honestly does help. It really does. No, it helps. It gets you off of screens.
I spent Tuesday and Wednesday in bed reading and cuddling with my dog,
Yeah, if you can, I highly recommend getting outside. So next time you want to read, put a little blanket on the grass and just
except for the fact that it's 40s outside right now.
sorry. Wow.
The next one is to use social media as a tool. If it feels overwhelming, you can set boundaries, only check your devices at certain times, manage how long you actually spend online. And the next one is to connect with someone, so talk with others in your life about it. You can also find support from a mental health professional. I definitely think it's important to connect with people who leave you feeling more positive and more refreshed. And lastly, find mental health resources if you need them. The Mental Health Coalition is mental health organizations, brands, and people who join forces to end stigma around mental health and change the way we talk about and care for mental illness. So their website is filled with a ton of mental health resources that you may need. Call or text 988 for Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. You can also go to the Trevor Project, Crisis Text Line. There are several resources if you need them.
Yeah. And to just kind of go off more off of what Maria said, I saved a couple other posts that I thought were helpful that I wanted to share. So, first of all, worrying about the climate is it's normal and it's healthy. It would be really weird if you didn't care at all, I think. So, give yourself grace and like allow yourself to sit with this and know that this is normal. It's perfectly logical to be concerned about this. We all know the possible outcomes if we don't take action. And you're not alone at all. If you have similar social media feeds to ours, then you're very well aware of that. You know, I woke up to when I finally did open social media, just hundreds and hundreds of posts of people being absolutely devastated. So it is like pretty heartening to know, you know, that you're not the only one. And if you live in a red area where people don't think like you, if your family's very, very far right or they don't get it, take the time you need. And then you got to remember there's a world of people that are working on solutions. Everywhere all across the world, people are finding ways to respond to the climate crisis and accelerate change. Like there are so my heart is so warm when I think about the thousands and thousands of people that are doing this work that are smarter than me, that are more equipped than me, that are more resourceful than me. That really, really, and that's not to say we shouldn't take action. We need every single person on board, but there are very smart people doing very, very difficult work. And I believe in them. And that warms my heart. That makes me feel better. So, and the best cure for your eco anxiety at this current state is to get involved. So go to a meeting, go volunteer at a community garden. It could be anything. It could be something so small as like starting at a community garden to grow a little bit of your own food, to get involved with an organization for an eco cause that you believe in your own area. Just do something. Go to your city's meetings and discuss possible climate solutions or little things that can make change. There's a lot of heaviness, but the work continues. It's not going to stop. I'm not going to stop. I'm going to take a breather, but I'm not going to stop. So, man, I know this is so heavy and this is not how we wanted to end our second season, but thank you guys so so much for being here, for caring. Our numbers of this podcast have tripled this season. You guys are absolutely incredible. The fact that you want to listen to us ramble, the entire basis for this podcast is a place where we can come and have conversations about the things that matter to us, whether it's people, planet, just the little things that are the most important to us, while also remaining fun and lighthearted and talking about the little things as well. So, we've spoken about this quite a bit. We have both listened to so many climate sustainability podcasts that are very heavy and dense. And I do think there's a time and a place for that, but we want it to be fun. Obviously, it doesn't feel fun today. But you know what? This is this is the reality of this movement. There's going to be lows, and eventually there's going to be highs. So, thank you guys so much for listening and for being here. We are so lucky to go through something like this election cycle, knowing that there's thousands of people that listen to our podcast that care about the same things we care about. It feels good. So, that's a wrap on season 2, I guess.
That's a wrap. We are going to take some time and we will be back in 2025 with a lot more positivity and a lot more ways to turn this into something positive. I'm also taking a breather. We are taking a breather and we will come back better than ever. And I can't wait for season 3.
If you see less content from us, don't assume that it is because we're giving up or we're quitting. We're still here. We're just taking a little bit of a step back for the time being. But
We just need a moment.
yeah, we all do. Get off of screens and go for a run.
Yes.
Thank you guys. We love you guys so much. Seriously. Seriously, like the climate community, it's everything. It's everything. I don't know if I would be okay right now. We're not for
Yeah.
that.
We will see you when we see you.
It's going to be okay. We love you.
Bye.
Bye. Let us pray that the next 3 months are used
Please don't say, let us pray.
under his eye.
Oh, God.